You've had a peruse. What do you think then? We were surmising what goes through the boss's mind. What's gone through your mind looking at it?
I was just listening to you. I was finding it quite amusing that we were likely to start with several defeats, go unbeaten from September to March, and then lose in the final stages. So, but no, I think that if you're to look on paper, you would openly admit it's a difficult start to the season in terms of Bradford, who I would imagine would be potential playoff candidates. You've got Sheffield United, one of the favourites, and obviously Barnsley.
Yeah.
Also one of the favourites in our first three fixtures, and sandwiched in between that's a League Cup tie against Cardiff. So on paper it's a very difficult start, but I think the encouraging thing for ourselves is that I think last season probably our performances against the top teams were possibly our best performances. So we hold no fear in that regard. And I've always said, I'm not a great reader into fixtures themselves. They're only good or bad fixtures depending on results. So, I'm certainly looking forward to the season. One thing I will say about this season is I think it's going to be a very competitive league. I think it's got the makings of a very unpredictable league because there's a lot of teams there with similar resource and similar finance, with the exception of maybe the top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I think you'll find it's going to be a very, very competitive league this year.
And I mean, I don't know how much, depending on what staffing you have, it depends, how much you can compare with last season. But when you look at what you achieved against some significant odds, Stephen, I mean, it must hearten you, and you think you're going into this next season in a reasonably strong position, but depending on the staffing that you have.
Yeah, I think that the encouraging thing for ourselves was that 5 or 6 of our academy players got real experience last season, and I think that in itself was vitally important in terms of the building process of the football club. But I'm under no illusions. We need to add to the squad in the summer here, and we have yet to make a signing. That doesn't concern me because we do have targets and we are working exceptionally hard on them. But there's no doubt that over the course of the summer that there could be 7 or 8 players joining us, and I think that that's vital because we don't just have a first team programme in terms of to fulfil. We also have 21s programmes and 18s programmes, and we are short across the ground in all areas, and we need to recruit. But that's part of the process, and we're working hard towards that. And I'm excited about that. If we can get the right players in, added with the growth of our own young players, then I think we can have a very exciting season.
What about Joe Murphy's departure, though? I mean, that must really worry you because he has been solid, hasn't he? I mean, and people have said there've been points-saving performances from Joe last season, and you've got a young lad there. We've already heard from fans this morning saying Lee Burge is he's committed to the club. He's just signed a new 3-year deal, but he's only 21. He's still a youngster. Are you going to be on the hunt for a goalkeeper? Are you going to be looking for one?
I am, yes, but I'm in the hunt for a goalkeeper that's going to come in and battle for his place with Lee. I'm not looking for a goalkeeper that's necessarily coming in that expects to be the number one.
I know.
I want there to be a real fight for the number one jersey there. Competition, creates performances. And, the one thing I will say is we've got great hope and great belief in Lee Burge. And my philosophy in terms of playing young players and giving them the opportunity. Sometimes young players just need that opportunity to excel. With regards to Joe, I'm one of Joe's biggest supporters. He was brilliant for me during my period in charge. He only missed one game. His level of performance was terrific. But he wasn't just a good player for me on the pitch. He was a terrific influence on people in and around the club, and he'll be sorely missed. But, as I've said, that's football. Joe also has ambition. We have ambition, but at this moment in time, one of the problems, there's no doubt, is matching championship finance. It's an impossibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we have to accept that. But the one thing is, we wish Joe all the best because he was such a committed player to the football club. But I do believe now there is a great, great opportunity for Lee Burge, and I'm excited by that because I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper.
You've proven last season you're a creative manager. You have the ability, as you say, to get you're not frightened to try and get the best out of youngsters. You'll give people the opportunity to step up to the plate and to show you what they can do, and that's good to a point. But you do need money, Stephen, don't you?
Listen.
Have you got money available?
I do have money available, and there is no. Listen, the statistics on football don't lie. The top teams just now are the teams with the money, but there are obviously, there are obviously always exceptions to the rule. There's obviously teams that are very creative with their resource, and also I think that the one thing that we do have at Coventry is a very good youth academy, and I'm a great believer that there's no point investing a lot of your money and resource into an academy if you aren't serious about using it.
Yeah.
I think it's a big problem in the English game in general. There's so many teams, top teams, that invest so much money in their academy, but they aren't actually serious about it. And I think that, the building of a football club like ourselves should be based around that. And I think it's proven last year with the likes of Callum Wilson, the likes of Connor Thomas, Jordan Clark, Cyrus, the emergence of those players. And I think that moving forward, that several of them are going to be key to the way we progress. But I'm under no illusions as well that these young players need support, and that's going to be part of my recruitment drive. I think we need 3 or 4 slightly more experienced players that can stabilise the football club.
Stephen, just a couple of thoughts on being at Northampton. The way the fixtures have been done this coming season, there are no clashes, so you won't have to move any of your fixtures to Sunday afternoons. Does that make a difference? Was it a disadvantage last season, having to move so many games?
No, I'm not one to look for excuses. I think that what the ideal solution would be. We all know that, but at this moment in time, we are faced with again travelling to Northampton. I think that the Saturday game is better. I think it's better for our supporters as well. Our supporters traditionally like to go and watch their football team on a Saturday afternoon, and sometimes in football we're very, in terms of the support, we neglect what their demands are, and ultimately there's so many games not played on a Saturday afternoon which suits them. So I think that in respect is a good thing. Last year at times it actually benefited us moving the game slightly to the Sunday. It gave us an extra day to prepare from a midweek fixture. So there was times there was an advantage, times it was a disadvantage. But I look for solutions and not excuses, to be perfectly honest.
And in terms of recruitment and indeed keeping players, do you think you've been impacted so far by the fact you're playing games at Northampton? Has it resulted in you not getting players or losing players?
Listen, I think there's no doubt about that. I think that, I'm not going to come on your show and lie to you. I think that when you're a club like Coventry and in the past you could show players around the Rico Arena, it's an enormous attraction for players, and also for players knowing that potentially you're playing in front of 10,000 plus supporters is another attraction to players. So when you're discussing the current situation with players, there's no doubt that situation playing at Northampton always comes up, and the fact that we're playing in front of not a great number of supporters also comes up. So it is a problem in attracting players. We have to sell the philosophy of the club. We have to sell the ambitions of the football club, and we try desperately to do that. But there's no doubt the current predicament is a hindrance in terms of attracting players, but we'll do all we can to get the very best players playing for Coventry City.
4 home games in April, so you should be able to wrap up promotion that month.
That's Clive, Stephen, not me, just so you know.
What's that?
Listen, before I let you go, I got this image of you now sitting watching the World Cup with a big A4 pad, writing down the names that you'd like to sign with the money that you've got. Who do you fancy? Any that you fancy chipping in for?
Well, the truth is, the team that always have a real chance is Germany. They start the tournament in pretty emphatic form.
Yeah.
They were very professional in their performance, and they have always a real chance of winning it because of their mentality. I think that, Brazil were slightly disappointing last night, but I would never rule them out of the equation either. I think that 4 points from their opening 2 games is a reasonable start when you consider they've yet to hit top form. So I would go with one of those 2.
Although, having said that, last night, I mean, that Mexico weren't prepared to lie down, were they? It was quite clear that they were going to make a scrap of it. And you've got to admire that, haven't you, really, I guess?
Absolutely, and you can't underestimate how good a side Mexico are as well.
I thought, for a second, you were going to say, I'm not watching it because Scotland didn't qualify.
I was going to say, of course, you'll be cheering on England tomorrow, of course.
Oh, yeah, you'll be there with your little flag of St George, will you, Stephen, tomorrow?
Absolutely, yeah, I've got them on my car.